Alright, the day after we're dismantling. So you can see how these were made out of some planters. That was the base weight for the towers. And I really just built it up so that it was structural. The smaller tower only needed one long reinforcement or gusset. This taller one needed a pair of them. The day that I assembled it, it was really windy too, so it was a good day for testing it out to make sure that it was going to work. And you can see how it was just some planters full of dirt. It's got to be 350 pounds there though, so it wasn't budging at all. Okay, so our entire system was between 180 to 200 feet long, and here I am comparing the old one that we used to the new one. So you can see how chewed up the old one is. And it actually rained overnight on the Sunday, so the day before we left this thing hanging on the two outdoor masts, and then I crudely taped it to the mirror of my truck just to hold it up there. So it rained overnight, pretty much right up until we decided that it was getting too late and this thing needed to be set up. And as far as that goes, it worked out pretty good, and the system itself. So here we are, you can see how chewed up it is. So if you were to do this around the clock, you're going to be replacing your line every few days, definitely, depending on all the variables and your weather. But it's still kind of saturated with a little bit of water. But it held strong. This fishing line did not stretch. When I originally went to the store to try to buy something, I was looking for the Spider Wire Stealth Ultra some kind of crazy 50-pound test. And I did find it, but I ended up finding this stuff that was 80-pound test, and it was actually cheaper. So let's talk about the drive line again a little bit here that we had on this thing. So although it was a good idea, I ended up scrapping it, and here's why. Its purpose was because our drive pulley here was so small that the fishing line alone and the tensioner, the way I had it set at first, did not have enough grip on it to spin it properly. So it would spin right here, and it would work a little bit, and then it would spin here again, it would slip. So I put that drive line on here thinking that because we're going to have slippage here, we've also got these exterior pulleys, or again the ones that were going to the outside, that could be turned into partial drives as well, just to help it feed in. So what I did was I ran a reverse cable on these two pulleys so that they spun true, they spun the way that they were going to, and the drive cable actually rode on the upper edge of the pulleys while the actual line rode below it. So, and again I said that the tensioner had to be moved, and it did have to be moved a little bit. Once I got rid of that white drive line and we repositioned the tensioner a little bit, and I simply added some duct tape to the inside of here to give it some bite, it worked flawlessly for the rest of the Sunday, and then all Halloween, so the 5 hours we had it running continuously, non-stop. It did not stop unless we were changing out these guys for another one. We had that down to a NASCAR science. I had to add this duct tape here to the wood because we had splinters and slivers sticking up. And as it was dragging along, it was trying to catch them and pull at them as best as they could. That was on the first day, of course, because Halloween Eve, this thing went all night long, all night, all night, all night long, all night. The tensioner was just on a bungee strap, and once we had it in the ideal position and it had good tension on it, we didn't even need to adjust the upper and the lower because the line would pull true the way that it wanted to. It actually restricted its effectiveness the other way, and the line would ride up and down somewhat. And when we had it like this, the line literally stayed in this groove all night long. The same as these grooves here too. It did not move. We had it nailed so accurately. loading up the heavy stuff. Yesterday when we had gusts of 47k, that UFO was all over the place and it was really tough on here, and that might have been part of the reason that the drive line failed. But I would blame more the fact that it stretched when it wasn't supposed to, and although it had bite, it kept stretching and it kept twisting. Maybe I should have put a couple spinners on there and that would have made the difference, but since we put this tensioner here the way it is, and all I did was I put some duct tape on the inside of there to give it some bite because we have such a small little pulley there. It's worked all night long, even with kids hitting at it, because there's a couple areas where it was too low, but it's done a real good job. At least we can say the Axworthy was a success.